Hey everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Brave Purpose. My name is Anisa Wesley and I am your host for today. I'm the #1 best-selling author of the book, Please Excuse My Brave, Overcoming Fear and Living Out Your Purpose. So go get that, it's available on Amazon. But I'm also a wife, a mother, a friend. I am a licensed clinical therapist. I am an author, a podcaster, and most importantly, I am a daughter of the Most High God. So, welcome to this space that I have created to talk about living bravely. Talk about living bravely. If you can, if you see this, please write in the comments, write in the, questionnaire what it means to you to live bravely, or what tips do you feel like you need? What questions do you have, so that I can continue to bring you this content to help bring in those areas that people are struggling with. So, or that you're not struggling with, you just want to kind of celebrate. I'm all for that as well. So please make sure you also like, share, and subscribe to my podcast, to my YouTube channel, so that you do not miss an episode and your weekly dose of brave. So yeah, on my YouTube, I'm actually in the month of December, I'm actually sharing one prayer a day to keep anxiety away. So please subscribe over there, as well as listen to me on Spotify now, or Apple Podcasts if you have that as well. I have been in a series this past few weeks talking about the fear responses or the trauma responses. The fear responses are pretty innate, right? They're usually something that we don't have much control of, that they kind of just instinctually happen. It becomes a trauma response when it is unhealthy, right? When it becomes unhealthy, when you're no longer in a life-threatening situation or a dangerous situation and you don't need to use those anymore, now it is a trauma response. So the last one, we made it, we made it, we made it, we made it. Oh. And the last one is called Fawn. 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 So you can write that down if you want to. But fawn is a fairly new fear response. It's a person who's fawning. They have a really hard time with conflict. When conflict arises, they usually abandon themselves. They abandon their boundaries, and they usually try to go with what the other person is doing to avoid having that conflict. So a fawner is really someone who is ultimately a people pleaser. Now, I have a whole chapter of that in my book and about people pleasing. So I think you should read it if you struggle with people pleasing or fawning. But that's what this episode is about today. So I'm going to share a little bit about fawn, and a lot of this information is similar to the other ones, but the fawn response is probably one of my favorite responses, because it's so real, right? Like a lot of times when we feel like our own boundaries are unreasonable, or we feel like someone is upset with us, we usually do the thing that actually that actually made us feel uncomfortable, and or that we actually weren't supposed to do, in order to appease them, or in order to, make sure that they don't abandon us, or that they don't gaslight us, or emotionally abuse us. And I think that speaks volumes, right? I think that is something that we as a people have to get better at. A lot of people. I'm not saying everybody, because obviously, at some point, maybe you've experienced each of all 4 of these fear responses. However, that's exactly what it is. I really do think that fawning is people pleasing because it is definitely out of fear. It's definitely out of fear. It can be from trauma, people treating you a certain way if you didn't abide by their rules, or if you had a conflict and then you lost a friend, or you had a conflict and then, you know, people didn't like you anymore. All those things, being rejected can result in fawning. So maybe you've never heard of this one, but maybe you're thinking like, that's what I've been doing all these years. What? There's a word for that? I just thought I was, doing what I do, doing what my family does, doing what everybody else thinks is right, or what it looks like to be a good Christian. I just thought that. But you're fawning. Your body is in a trauma response. So, yeah. So in order to get past fawning, I mean, besides trauma, besides, being able to process things that have happened to you in your past, your present, then you have to learn to love yourself. You have to learn that you have value. And you also have to learn that people pleasing, in short, means that you are afraid of people. And I always say, I ain't no punk. And so when you're people pleasing, that means that you are afraid of people. So you're putting people in the place of God. And I did a live a few years ago, maybe a year or two ago, and it was called the Perfection Pedestal. Perfection Pedestal. And it talked a lot about how oftentimes we put different people on a pedestal, like a perfection pedestal, that we're either trying to reach that, or now we feel little because we are putting somebody on a pedestal that they were never meant to be put on. Fearing people we're not supposed to fear people. We are supposed to fear God. And I talked about that when I talked about what fear actually is, and the type of fear that is reserved for God, reverential fear. And the type of fear that we're not supposed to have, cowardice. So go back and watch the very first episode that I did about fear. So yeah. So the first step is to learn that your boundaries are worth upholding, because you're worthy, because you have value, and not everybody else also has value, but you have value too. You matter too. Okay. And so I think that's one of the major things. Sometimes fawning makes us feel very small, like we don't matter. But we have to put everybody else to matter. And that's just not true. That's just not true. So I want you to know that you matter, and that your voice matters, that your boundaries matter, that conflict is not the devil. Getting into a conflict with someone doesn't mean automatically that the relationship needs to end. Conflict is actually a good sign. It's a sign that you're growing. It's a sign that you're being honest with each other. It's a sign that you're not in fawn, right? Because you're actually having the conflict and working through the conflict and making your relationship better, whether it's a friendship or romantic or whatever. You're making the relationship better by engaging in that conflict. Even though it's uncomfortable, I still don't really like conflict. I don't know who, well, no, I'm lying. I do know people who like conflict. I am not one of them. I don't like conflict, but I'm okay with conflict, if that makes sense. Like, I'm okay having a conflict and working something out. I'm okay with someone telling me that they didn't like something that I did and us working through it. What I'm not okay with is people pretending like nothing happened And that's something I used to do too. And I don't do that anymore because there is no good fruit from that. There's nothing. That's one thing I wish I would have done in some of my other friendships and relationships is I wish I would have been able to voice myself a little bit more, my conflict, because I think that would have really helped the relationships. But anyway, loving yourself, valuing your own opinion, valuing your own boundaries, and also only putting God in that place of reverential fear, in that place of, you know, awe, right? We're not supposed to be in awe of other people. We're supposed to be in awe of God. People, no offense, but y'all like dust. We're like dust. So we're made from dust. So yeah, it's not that impressive. I mean, we're awesome because God made us that God made us amazing. God made us his masterpieces. But that's not what I mean. I mean, like, when it comes to someone putting a person in that place of a pedestal or of awesome, it's like whenever you put somebody on a pedestal or in the place of God, they always disappoint you. They're going to fall down off that pedestal. You're going to be disappointed. If you are betting on a person, we're just human. We're never made to be put in the place of a God. So yeah, stop fearing people. Stop it. Just stop fearing people. And obviously that's easier said than done, which is why I wrote a whole chapter on it in my book. But that this is real life, right? This is real life. So I'm not saying it's easy as snap your fingers, but I am saying that you can do it. And these are some of the steps to take to get to it. Put yourself in your proper place and put God in his proper place, and then put other people in their proper place, right? Out of the throne of God. And you're on your way. You'll also have to practice the skills that I've been talking about. You'll also have to probably talk to someone else about what's been going on with you and discover the root of the fawning, right? But ultimately, the value that you have for yourself is going to matter the most. So I'm going to wrap this episode up because I'm already over my time once again. Sorry, y'all. I'll be talking. But that's why I'm a podcaster. So hopefully you enjoyed these episodes in this series on the trauma responses or the fear responses. And I hope you go back and watch them and maybe, begin to discover more about yourself, because self-awareness is really key to any type of healing. You have to first be aware that there's something going on in order to decide to heal. So with that being said, I'm so excited to see and hear that you guys are getting healthier, that you are wanting to do better, that you are learning these different things and you're able to apply them and into your life. Maybe you're stepping into that brave journey of therapy before the end of the year or early next year. So I'm excited for that. Please write in the comments how this is helping you and what you want to see in the future. And yeah, remember, you have what it takes to live your life bravely. Thank you for listening and watching today, and have a very, very blessed Merry Christmas.